What's up, everybody? This is Tommy McAllister, and this is episode 1 of the High Level Husband Podcast. And I'm excited. We've been talking about doing this for a while. Yes, I do coach alongside of my beautiful wife, Diane. But this podcast right here is primarily going to be myself leading it as host. Diane will be on here from time to time and talking about her journey and dropping you guys some knowledge and coaching and things along this side. But we're going to have multiple different types of guests on here. We're going to have high-level other coaches. We're going to have other just people who are just great husbands in general that have come on here to share their story about not only what makes them a great husband, but to share their story in general, because being a high-level husband isn't just about specific tools and all of this. It's about our journey, our experiences, everything we've gone through in life to be able to get us to where we are, to be able to be here. And do I consider myself a high-level husband? I do. Is that cocky? You can call it what you want to call it, but at the same time, it's confident. Lord knows that he's given me plenty of tests along the way, hardships, pain, suffering. A lot of those are self-inflicted, but at the same time, a lot of those right there were needed for me to happen so I could be who I'm becoming today and in the future, so I could be the husband that I am for Diane, to be the father that I am for my kids, Tyson and Saren, and to be the coach that I am for everybody out there that we coach across the world. So for if you guys know me, you know me from social media. Our biggest platforms are on TikTok and Facebook Reels, but we also have a decent presence on Instagram. So some of you guys might know my story, some of you guys might not, but that's what I'm going to do in episode 1 here, is share my story, my journey of what the things that I've been through, which at the time seemed hard and crazy, and I wish I weren't going through those times, but those same exact experiences are what I needed to happen to get me to where I am today. Nowhere in the Bible did it say it's just going to be ice cream and cake and just bliss every day, all day of life. No, it says we have to carry our cross. It says we have to do other things like that. There's going to be struggles, and that's okay, because every single struggle that I've been through in my life has all had a reason behind it. It's an alarm clock sometimes to showing us that we need to grow and change. It's strengthening. It's building calluses so we can go through more and more things in life and be able to teach and lead. And for me, everything that I've been through isn't about for my personal pleasure. It's so I can be the coach that I've been called to be for you guys. So I can be doing these things like the podcast, for I can be doing the reels and the TikToks and the things like that we do, for it to be able to coach people that we do in our one-on-one coaching, the coaching that we do in our group coaching. To be able to do this stuff, there was a meaning behind it. And I didn't realize it at the time, as all the struggles that I was going through in my life at those times, I didn't realize at the time that it had this meaning behind it. 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't tell you, there's zero chance I would have told you that where I am right now, that I would be. And the cool thing is 3 years from now, I won't be able to predict where I'm going to be then. All I know is I'm going to keep moving one foot in front of the next, keep saying yes to God, and keep walking in the direction, and keep surrendering and growing. And it's going to be mind-blowing what's going to be happening for my life, for your guys' life, every time we just keep saying yes. So that's enough of the spiel for there, but just to give you a little bit about our coaching and what we do. We focus a little bit different. We focus on the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the relational. And we do that because times are different. It's, right now it's 2022. Times are different. We don't just talk to people. Talking's great, but at the same time, we need actionable steps. Fitness has been a huge part of my life, and it's so much more than biceps and abs. It's like an antidepressant, right? It's our balancing our hormones and our mood. The mental, man, that's one of my favorite to talk about, is mental and our mindset and who we're becoming and what we're able to go through. And in the spiritual, like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't today, if I wasn't surrendering my life to Christ. I've had unexplainable experiences time and time again, that has got me to where I am. And I'm going to share a lot of that on this first episode here, through my journey of the things that I've been through, the things that majority of it were self-inflicted, for the most part. And that's okay. But it made me who I am. So enough about that. Let's get into it. So, just give you a little backstory. To be where I am today, nobody would have told you this when I was in high school, right? So when I was in high school, I was the shyest kid, literally the shyest kid in my high school. No joke. And I had a couple of friends there, but even then I was still really shy. I didn't raise my hand in class. I didn't talk. I didn't do any of that, right? And I had a couple of friends, but they were there, but we didn't hang out outside of there for the most part. My other friends went to other high schools. But even then I was still pretty shy. I'd open up to the people I knew, and that was that. There would have been zero chance that you would have said I'd be doing what I'm doing in high school today. I was just talking about that with my brother, who's a couple years older than me. And he was like that football, he was a good football player in high school, smart, popular, all of this. And I was far from that. And he was just saying the other day, it's this crazy your journey that's, of where I've come. And he's been a big supporter of mine. And I've been able to coach him in certain areas, which is really cool because you wouldn't have been able to think that back then. I didn't even kiss a girl until I was out of high school. That's the crazy part. That shows you how shy I was. My second girlfriend ever in my life, the second girl I ever kissed, is Diane, my wife. We dated for 4 years after high school. She was a senior. I had already graduated. We went to different high schools and didn't know each other until we had met. And we were together for 4 years, and then we split up for 2. And we've been back together now for what we said our 16th wedding anniversary. And so we've been back together for about 18 years now. And during that split up, of course, I kind of went and sowed my oats a little bit, and you could say. And so that was my experiences with other women, but it also made me realize how special it is to be with one woman, and a woman who's special, and a woman who fills those needs. Because, and this is going to be a weird topic, but like sex, right? Like, as fun as it is, it's really pretty overrated if it's not with somebody that means the world to you. When it's something special. And I learned that quickly. The lifestyle I was living in those 2 years I was apart from Diane. I was a drug addict. I was a hardcore partier. I was in the music scene. I was just going wild. And I had been with a lot of women. And guess what? It wasn't all that cool. I mean, it was what it was at the time. I thought it was cool. I thought I was trying to scratch an itch that could never be scratched. And it was never like all that great. Like, honestly, looking back now, I'm like, and I knew it in the time as well. But so I don't want to get into too many details of my life. Those are going to come up over the years during all these episodes we're going to be doing and talking about my experiences. But I like to be vulnerable. That's one of the biggest things that makes somebody a high level husband. You got to be vulnerable, man. Like, that's freeing in life. I'm free. Like, literally anything that I've ever done in life, I will tell you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's just who I am. And when you are okay with that and you own that, that's awesome. We all want to know somebody that's a real person. I want to be with somebody who's a real person. I want somebody who hides their feelings or not able to share things. Well, others shouldn't know that about me. Why? Are you ashamed of it? Yeah, I am. Okay, well, why are you ashamed of it? Have you not worked through that? Are you a better person now? Well, yeah, I'm a better person now. Okay, well, then why are you ashamed of it if you're a better person now? Did it make you a better person? Yeah, I needed to go through that. Okay, don't be ashamed of it then. Because somebody else is going through that situation, right? All the things that I've been through, like I said, was for a reason. So if you've gone through something and you're a better person for it, let others know about it and be like, yo, I needed to go through that. And that's why I'm where I'm at. So that's where I'm at in my life, is because of those. And so, like I said, after high school, I started slowly coming out of my shell. I had my heart broken by this. My first girlfriend was the first person I ever slept with, was this girl I was in love with. She went away to college. We stayed together and got my heart broken, of course, right? And that was terrible. And I vowed from that day forward, I said, I'll never have my heart broken again. And I went on a rampage after that. And the way I kind of treated women was not good, because I was like, I never want my heart broken again. That's probably one of the worst feelings in the world, right? Getting your heart broke, because you have no control over it. You want to be with somebody and you can't control it one bit. That's terrible. That's so hard. But it's also sometimes what we need to do to grow, right? So I dated somebody, got my heart broken. Then I met Diane, and she's always, the crazy person is Diane's the person she was back then that she is now for the most part. She's just grown into much more of a killer and a savage as a coach, but she's always has been this even keel loving person. And we dated for 4 years. I went off to the military because I joined the military. I wasn't doing nothing back home. I was a different person. I still had the entrepreneur mindset back then. I knew I didn't want to go to college. I knew I didn't want to work. I had worked a construction job. I hated having a boss. I hated that job. And I literally just was like, ugh, if I have to do this stuff for the rest of my life, that's going to suck. And that's still how I feel about regular jobs today, for myself, not necessarily for everybody. But when I went off to the military, was when I really first started coming out of my shell. And excuse me for a second. Sorry. When I was in the military, I started coming out of my shell because I came from a very small town. I started meeting a lot of other, people from all over the world. I mean, not the world, the U.S., right? Different lifestyles and different backgrounds. And it was cool. And I really started, you're forced to be in a unit. So I was in the infantry and in the Marines. And so I was in a unit with a bunch of different people from all over the places. My best friends. I love those brothers still to this day. But it was a different story for me. I don't need to get all into the military thing now. And I quickly excelled through the military in a lot of different ways, and eventually self-sabotaged because I was still very insecure. All the things I went through when I was young, my parents had the worst marriage ever. I know there's some other worse ones out there, but I'm not going to put people on blast on this, but my parents had a really terrible marriage. I witnessed a lot of bad things happen. And that was a lot of the reasons why I kind of turned to drugs in my younger high school years, and why I was so shy and a lot of that. And when I went to the military, I still had a lot of those insecurities, and I was coming out of them. But Diane was back home. We were still dating, and my friends were back home. And anyways, make a long story short, I made some poor decisions after about 2 years, and I went to military prison there for a while. And when I got out, that was very hard on me. It was before 9/11. And when 9/11 hit, I was 3 weeks removed from being discharged from the military, and being in the infantry. My unit was one of the first ones in, and I was an integral part of that. And so to watch that happen sent me in a spiral of drug use. Pills was my thing. I was drinking a lot, and pills turned to that, and then that turned to Oxycontin, which then stole my life for about 2 years. Thankfully, by the grace of God, I was still able to hold down a regular job. I was working at a casino at that time, and I was still able to hold a regular job, but then those drugs stole my life because of the pain that I was dealing with, right? And so all that pain I was dealing with from my past, I wasn't addressing. So whatever pain you're going through in your life right now, what are you addressing? That's a huge part of life. What are you addressing, right? If we're not addressing things that we're going through and we're burying them, they're going to come up. You see, we're not a pleasure-seeking culture. We're a pain-avoiding culture, just doing so through pleasure-seeking. And what that means is, when we have pain, we try to mask it. For some of you, that might be food, right? You might turn to food. For others, it might be turned to drugs. Some other time, maybe people turn to porn. Some other, that might turn to women. Oftentimes, people cheat on their wives not because they want to go have sex with a bunch of women. It's because that's their pleasure, that they're trying to seek validation, affirmation, love from somebody else because of their hurts that they're doing. So they're trying to avoid the pain there in their life through pleasure seeking. And I was doing that through drugs, through having let myself down in the military, having through some stuff was going on in my life in the past. And I was just lost. And I did that for about 2 years. And when I started becoming a drug addict, after I got back, me and Diane were dating a little bit, but it was volatile. I wasn't a good boyfriend. We broke up, get back together, break up for 2 weeks, get back together, break up, blah, 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 blah. And it was all on me. She wasn't ever one wanting to break up. It was all me. And I ended up cheating on her. And we broke up for 18 months, and that was needed. I needed to go out and figure out what was going on in my life. She needed to go out and be away from me and figure out if I was actually the one, right? Like, she needed to go do some things in life. She had some growing to do as an individual, as we all do, but not like I did. And during that time of 18 months, my life didn't get better, and it only got worse because of drugs, because of sleeping around, because of different things. And what I needed to do was, I needed God in my life. And that may be a turnoff for some of you, but that's just the truth. I had tried getting clean by doing everything. I'd get clean for 30 days, I'd fall back off. I'd get clean for 2 weeks, fall off. Get clean for 5 days, fall off, right? Like, just that same cycle repeated itself over and over and over again. And not until I gave my life to Christ did it finally clear itself up. And my mom had given me a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, and I started diving into it, and I was just like, wow, I've never looked at God this way. I went to a Catholic high school. I was baptized. I had my first communion, and I believed in God, but I didn't practice. That's where it stopped, and I needed to go into a book that was going to guide me in the direction. And I started going back to church. I went back to the Catholic Church, and to this day, I don't go to the Catholic Church anymore, not because they did anything wrong to me. We go to a non-denominational church, and that's just what serves my family now, but I still have nothing but love for the Catholic Church. But I was going to it at that time, and my life started changing. My heart started changing. I got clean. I started cleaning up my friendships. And so what a lot of times in life, what we got to realize is the people that we hang around with, right? And I know you've all been told this. You can't keep hanging around those people if you want things to change. If you want to be a better husband, and you're looking around and you're seeing friends that aren't on the same wavelength as you, or don't have the same moral compass as you, they got to go. And that's not you loving them. If they're not willing to grow with you, then they're going to hold you back. That doesn't mean you're growing better than them. That means you're growing in a different direction. I had to cut a lot of my friends loose, stop spending time with them. And that took a while. I started meeting new friends, hanging out with different friends that didn't have those values that I had, and it was great. You know, the old adage is if you hang out with 9 millionaires, you're going to become the 10th. If you hang out with 9 broke people, you're going to become the 10th. If you hang out with 9 drug addicts, you're going to be the 10th, right? And you hang out with 9 single people, you're going to become the 10th. Look around who you're hanging out with and spending, because those are going to influence you so much. And so that's a part of the journey of becoming high level, right? Like, you have to clean up the people in your life. I had to do that at the time. I had to clean up the people in my life. And I still love those people. There's a couple people I still kind of keep in contact with, but most I don't. It's not because I don't love them and don't want the best for them. It's just they don't have a place in my life. I'm always here for them if they want help and growth. I'll be able to guide any way I can for them, but I'm not going to let them guide me with their baggage of the things that they're doing that are negative in their life, because that's not me. And so after I got clean, that was huge. Diane ended up coming back. I had to win her back. She just didn't be like, cool, I see things changing, I'm back. Like, she made me earn it. She made me earn that so much. And it's what I needed. And I had told her this a long time ago. Yeah, when I first started coming back for you, I think it was just like, I want to see if I could conquer that again. And she made me earn it. And thankfully she did. It wasn't like, hey, we've slept together a billion times already. Like, first date back, like, we're going to start sleeping together. No, like, she wasn't even about that at that time. And that was good, because most of the other women I was hanging with at that time, it was like, yeah, that was what would happen, first date style, because that's the type of person I was. I was not a good person. And she made me earn it. And it was huge. She started watching what was happening in my faith life. She started watching the words that were coming out of my mouth, watching because who I was becoming. And it was a crazy first 6 months after turning my life to God. I had probably a different first 6 months of turning my life to God than a lot of people will. I had, because of the blessings of my dad, he had a piece of property that had a huge lot on the back, and he allowed me to build a house on that. Now, granted, I had to pay for it. He just let me build a house on that lot, which saved me some money. And he helped organize that for me, and do that because he had just retired, and it was amazing from him, and I appreciate him for that. And so I was building a house as I was getting sober. It was just one crazy occurrence after another that happened. Diane came back. At my work, somebody gifted me a tip that turned into being winning. I won a car, right? A 1964 and a half Mustang convertible that only had very few miles on it. I won it. Like, it was just these crazy things that was happening in my life. Just one amazing thing after another. And I'm not saying that's what everybody's faith life journey is like when you first turn your life to Christ. That was what mine was like, and God knew that's exactly what I needed in my life at the time. And I didn't squander it. But as some of you guys have heard my testimony before, and 6 months after all this was happening, and I've been clean, I had one crazy day of basically extreme temptation of my drug of choice, which was Oxycontin. Still lived in that town that I was living in, and I ended up living there for about another 15 years after that time. Super small town, drug problem there, big time. And like I said, I worked at the casino, and my position was all about tips. And so I had a pocket full of a lot of cash that day. And for some reason, the devil was on my one shoulder and the angel on the other. And the devil was saying, yo, go get some drugs. Come on, you've been doing good for so long. You can dabble here and there, blah, 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 blah. And boy, that whole day it was on my mind. On the drive home from work, I had a half-hour drive. 1 minute, my one shoulder was saying, go get drugs. The other was saying, go to confession. Next thing, go get drugs, go to confession. See, because since I had been clean, I had never gone to confession. You know, I know everybody has their own thoughts about it, but at the time I was going to the Catholic Church, and there's something powerful about sitting down at the feet of Christ. And, now that's through a priest there, but it's very similar to where you're just intermediary, just telling somebody else who has given their life to Christ all your sins that I hadn't told, and to free myself of them. And I just had this back and forth the whole drive. And literally that would have changed the course of my life that one day. My life would not be where I am today had I went and got drugs. It would have been over. If Diane would have left, I would have had drugs, and I probably would be either dead or have just squandered away everything. And just happened to be there was confession that day, because it's only like once or twice a week for an hour. And I drove to the church. It just happened to be confession. I went and I just laid it all out. And it was the most freeing moment of my life. And from that day forward, I've never been tempted by drugs since, of my drug choice, and that's crazy. And it changed my life to have these crazy temptations, to now give them over and never be tempted again. Pretty crazy. And so that saved my life right there. And so from that day on, my life was just on fire for Christ. And Diane, over the time, she believed in God, but that's where it stopped. And she was watching my life change, and I was frustrated. I'm like, baby, you're watching amazing things happen in my life, and you are not participating in prayer, going to church, anything like that, or reading or whatever. She's like, that's just not who I am. And my pastor, he told me in her own time, and that was one of the biggest pieces of advice I've ever been told in my life, and I still use it to all my clients this day, in their own time. And that was the thing. In her own time, she did come to Christ, and in her own time, she grew a relationship. She sits in bed every morning with me in bed when I'm still asleep, reading the Bible. We go to church. We pray together every night. Like, it's just awesome what happened, but it happened in her own time. So fast forward about 12 years, I was on fire for God. We had 2 kids. We were living a simple life, all this stuff. And that was great. But it came a point in my life where I knew I was destined for more. I don't know if you guys ever felt that, but you just knew you're meant for more. I didn't know what it was. I was racing BMX bikes on the side. That was my number one passion at the time. And I was racing on the national circuit and doing all these things. But I just knew there was more besides athletics. I knew there was more besides what I was doing for a living, for sure, because I was stuck at that casino and I had no other talents, or at least I thought I didn't have any other talents. And that was maybe my life. And that one always scared me, but I always trusted God that he would guide. And about nine years ago, my tipping position was going to change. I'd given 11 years to this casino. It was going to change. I was going to drastically lose about 60% of the money I brought in per year. And that was not good. So ironically enough, and you're going to see this guest on my podcast in the future, an entrepreneur in the area. He was a DJ, ran a DJ business, and he knew me through some music. And he said, man, it's time to go out on your own and chase your dreams. And he was already doing that, and he was very successful. And I was like, man, I don't know. But I did. I said yes. I went and turned in my resignation papers. I said yes. Diane backed me. And that was like the first big moment, besides having my life saved, that a defining moment in my life that God said, all right, let's do this. I thought that meant God was going to say, I'm putting you on the gravy train, son. Like, everything's going to be amazing for this next year, and everything's going to happen, because that's what happened the first year in my life of giving my life to Christ. It couldn't be farther from the truth, what happened that year. Everything I tried to do failed big time. We had built up a decent savings. That was down to pretty much nothing. I had a mortgage. I had 2 young kids. And my wife's job was very subpar for the most part. And she wasn't bringing that much money in. And what we did when I quit my job, here's the crazy part, is when whatever you want in life, there's going to be some sacrifices. When me and my wife decided that I was going to quit my job and start being an entrepreneur, which then quickly turned into coaching, we had to make sacrifices. We literally turned off cable TV. We unscrewed light bulbs around our house so we could save on power bill. We didn't eat out at a restaurant one time for a year. We didn't go buy clothes. We didn't do anything for 1 year. We literally sacrificed everything for a year so we could not be stuck at that spot. And we had to do that because it was so huge in our life. In hindsight, God wanted to see how much I was willing to trust him, what I was willing to go do. And as I'm failing other things, I started spiraling out of control in certain areas. My faith started getting tested. And my faith in God never wandered of like, do I still believe in you, God? But I didn't trust him anymore because he wasn't coming through with just winning cars and houses and things like that. I thought that what faith was about. It was different. He was grooming me to be where I am today. He needed me to be tested. He needed to break me in a lot of ways. Break some different areas in my life that I still needed to be tested on. And so that's what had to happen. I made some poor choices during those times, which I'm not going to necessarily get into on this episode. It didn't have to do with our marriage or anything like that, but just some other areas that I chose to go and do. And I pulled back from entrepreneurship. I started coaching, but it was literally on the side, and it wasn't like something I was all in on. And we've been doing this for a while, the coaching. But what I started turning into was I realized how much fitness was playing a part in my life as I became sober over all these years. I said, fitness is the one thing that I have an addictive personality. I had to turn it into. So I stayed with my fitness, my athletics. I started doing all of that more and more. And I started growing in all these other areas. I started having to become who I was going to become. That was facing challenges. That was finding that I didn't ever want to go back to the workforce. That was me realizing what I'm willing to do. God tested me, seeing what I'm willing to do. And I started focusing on my personal development, my mental development, my spiritual development, all of that. And I started having to go hardcore in those areas. And as I did, I would get successes, but then I would self-sabotage and fall off. And that was a theme in my life for a while there. I would go and then I would fail. I would go and then I would fail. And I had to address, why am I doing this? So a few years ago, I'd been coaching for a while and it was good. But it got to a point where I was needing, what I was doing wasn't going to stay. Me and Diane had wanted to change our life for so many years for being in the small town where we were living in. We didn't want to be the person we were, the life we were living. We wanted to move. And we talked about it for 10 years. We never had the balls to do it. And we were scared. We had our reasons, right? Oh, our kids in a good school. You have a steady job. Our family lives here. We'll wait. We don't know where we want. We had all the excuses that everybody else says why they don't want to do something in life. All real excuses. And what happened was we finally just had to get fed up. And what happened was God put me on my deathbed. So I had a bicycle crash 2.5 years ago, and I was in a hospital here in Vegas. I was racing at a national event, the very first lap of the event here in Vegas. I crashed, broke 5 ribs, collapsed my lung, separated my shoulder, and was in the trauma ICU down here. And we weren't living in Vegas at the time, and no plans on moving to Vegas. That wasn't even on our radar. And as I'm laying in there, it was hard because I didn't feel God at all. I wasn't living a Christ-centered life at that time. I prayed all the time. I went to church, but my heart wasn't in it. And I said, this is terrible. I'm laying dead in a hospital. I'm not living my full purpose. I'm not fully Christ-centered. I'm really kind of going half in, half out. Why is it this way? People I were aligned with back home were starting to come shady again a little bit. Not necessarily shady. They were good people. But I started letting some people creep back in my life. I wasn't doing drugs or anything like that, but I was doing some stuff I wasn't proud of. And God revealed to me in the hospital, you need to go somewhere different. Because not feeling him was a terrible feeling. As I thought I was dead. I literally thought I was dead. The way that paramedics were talking, I thought I was dead. And I said, this is how my life's going to end after all I've done. And as close I've been to God, and this is where I'm going to end. I have 2 young kids. I'm going to be dead. This is terrible. And we went home, and the doctors told me 3 months until I could do anything. 1 week later, I was back in the gym. 3 weeks later, I was fully healed, back to lifting pretty much full force. When the doctors had their checkup, they had to bring a second doctor in to check to make sure everything was okay because I had healed so fast. They said, this is almost impossible. But by grace of God, anything's possible. My mindset was, I'm not letting this break me. I remember a few days after that crash, I put out a post and I said, I'm going full force. And most people chimed in and they said, I knew this. I was waiting for this post to come. And when I said I'm all in, my mindset healed my body. Getting back to physical fitness healed my body. My mental strength healed my body. My faith started healing my body. And then we invested in our first our coach. Spent a lot of money on that, which was a scary thing because I was new to that field, but we spent an insane amount of money. And then COVID hits. And the pandemic shuts everything down. And me and my wife literally said, this is enough. It's enough. We're not letting COVID shut us down. Out of all the moments from being dead a few months more prior, of talking about doing all these big things for multiple years, and then COVID hits and everybody got scared and the majority of people let life scare them. We said, nah, we're running at that fear. You see, there's 2 different types of cows. There's ones that run from the storm, and by running from the storm, they stay in the storm longer because it keeps raining on them and getting them wet longer, which they don't want to be wet. Or there's another type of cow that runs at the storm, and just lets it pass over the top of them, and they're in and out of it quicker. We ran at the storm. We literally, Diane said, hey, I found this city called Henderson. You heard of it? I said, at Vegas? And I said, yeah, I have a buddy that from BMX that lives down there. Let me reach out to him. He says, yeah, it's a cool spot. We flew down here. We literally had already lined up a realtor. We already kind of knew a neighborhood we want to live in, but other than my BMX buddy who was drastically younger than me, I didn't know anybody. And we said, let's do it. We moved our family, right? This is how you become high level. You face fears. So we literally put our house up for sale. We bought a house down here, had 2 mortgages. We moved Diane out of her 19-year career to join me in coaching, which at that time was only providing X amount of money, which was very, very little. So we pretty much moved here with no careers, no jobs other than that, than the little amount of money the coaching was providing at that time. And we got here. 2 mortgages, middle of COVID, moved our kids, all of this. We sold our car when we got here and said, we're going to use that money to hire another coach to escalate this business to where we wanted to get it to. And we did that. Now we have 1 car, and we just went all in. And when we went all in, that's what we needed to realize. And since that point, we've had crazy experiences time after time of where we've got to. God just kept opening door after door and put us in a place to now be leading men and women all over this world to their marriages growing, to their personal development. What we realized was you have to get uncomfortable. You have to face fears. You have to do it in the worst times of being basically dead, then COVID, moving all in these months, selling cars and taking all your money, investing it in yourself and going all in is like when Abraham took Isaac and put him on the altar and was willing to kill him for the glory of God. And when we were willing to do this, to be able to do it for the glory of God, to impact marriages, that's when God said, I see you finally willing to face fears and go. And we struggled even those first years, so it was hard. But here's the crazy thing. One of the coaches we hired ended up loving us so much. He's like, dude, I want you to work for my business. We went and worked for them. But even during that time, he was saying, God was saying to me, no, you guys are called to be your own leaders. So then we grew even more and kept focusing on personal development even more. And we grew this business on our own to a business that I never knew. All those fears that we said we weren't going to leave our whole old city because we'd never make the money we'd be able to do now. We'd never be able to have all this stuff the security we had then and there now. We blew it out of the water because we faced fears and we didn't know what was going to happen, but we did it anyways. I would have never been where I'm at right now without those 4 things in my life. And that's why those 4 pillars are in our marriage coaching. Physical. I leaned on my physical strength and my consistency with that to then have consistency in my mental and my personal development, then to reignite my faith life and to watch what will happen when you actually trust God to move you places that you didn't think that you would ever do. Then it bled into my marriage, and my wife left her career and fully trusted me and fully trusted God. Then that changed so much more. I always said had a 10 out of 10 marriage. Well, what really? Did we? Because what happens is we have a 10 out of 10 now, and it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. And then when you start realizing that growth never stops, it's like pedaling a bike up the hill. As soon as you stop pedaling, you roll backwards. Then when you focus on all those things, when you realize your mindset's unbreakable, when you realize you can fully trust God and in your unanswered prayers are blessings, that He knows what's best and where you should go, just as long as you're willing to say yes and walk into those things, the beautiful things will happen in your life. When you realize that fitness isn't just so you can have biceps and abs so you can go down to the beach and holler at the chicks. When you realize that the purpose of having a healthy, fit body so you can sleep better, your hormones are more balanced, you have more energy, your mood's better, so you can go out and lead people, so you can inspire others, so you can perform your best, so you can show up for others. When you realize that and you focus in on that and you crush it in the fitness, you crush it in the mindset, you crush it in the spiritual, then you're going to crush it in your marriage. That's how you become a high level. And you do it day in and day out, consistent. You don't back off. Everybody, just like I said, we're not a pleasure-seeking culture. We're a pain-avoiding culture, but just doing so through pleasure-seeking. That's why everybody gives out participation trophies. That's why people want to binge eat. That's why people want success now. That's why people stay stuck. That's why people want stimulus checks. That's why nobody wants to go out and face things and get the things that they want. That's why they tell you when you're confident that you need to be humble. That's why when they see somebody that's confident, they say you're cocky. That's why when they say all that stuff is because it hurts in them. A hurt person will hurt somebody. When you see something that somebody else living that maybe you want them to come down to your level. And when you want them to come down to your level, you're changing the course of this earth. You're changing the course of your family. You're changing your vibration. Instead of saying, go get it, celebrate them. If your spouse is doing something better than you, celebrate them and challenge yourself. David Goggins says it best. And forgive me this, I'm just going to use it as his analogy, but he says, if you're fat, go look in the mirror and tell yourself you're fat and do something about it. If you're lazy, look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, you're lazy. Do something about it. If you know you're destined for more and you're not doing anything about it, look in the mirror and say, you are a letdown, and go do something about it. Because if you don't, you're going to stay in the same spot. Nothing changes unless something changes. And nothing's scarier than being 5 years down the road and in the exact same spot. Because you're afraid of change. When I look at the most defining moments in my life, turning my life to Christ, when I had to make the choice that was scary to either go do drugs or go to that and give my life to Christ, that was a scary moment. My next one, when I decided to quit my job and said, I'm going in. But God said, you're not ready yet. I'm going to take you through a season and I'm going to just mold you, but you're going to go through basically a boot camp for 7 years in the wilderness and be struggle and fail and hurt and learn these tools that you need in your life that's going to lift you up so you can go and teach those to other people who are going through the hard times right now and understand that you can come back no matter where you're at. Do you know that the most productive years of your life are years 60 to 70? The second most productive years of your life are from 70 to 80. I bet you if I asked you that, you would have probably said 20 to 30, 30 to 40. See, I'm 41 and I'm physically more fit than ever. And that's not me bragging. My business, I've never been a harder worker than I am today. I've never been marriage better than today. And my spiritual life is in a different spot than it is today than it's ever been. When I was young, people said, when you're 40, you're over the hill. Which means, what do you think over the hill means? You're on the down slope. We're just getting started, baby. No matter where you're at, you're just getting started. I don't care if you're 60 and you're listening to this and you think, I'm on the downward slope. No, it's a personal choice. I know 65-year-olds that are living like they're 35, and I know 35-year-olds that are living like 65. That's all a personal choice. Wherever you tell your body something, it's going to do it. Our body doesn't know the difference between a real and a fake scenario. It's the same reason we can think about sour candies and our mouth will water. We can watch crazy dudes hang off cranes and do that stuff and our hands will sweat. Or we'll watch Alex Honnold free solo El Cap and our hands will sweat. We'll be sweating, like our body. Well, that's not us doing it, but that's our body thinking we are. So if we tell ourselves that we're on the downward slope, we're on the downward slope. Our body will react. If we tell our body we're about to crush it, our body will react. Just back it up with action. Back it up. The number one thing in life is consistency. You want a good marriage? Be consistent. You want a good faith life? Be consistent. You want a physically fit body? Be consistent. You want to make a lot of money? Be consistent. Remove that consistency and you will slide. Why marriages struggle these days? Because they remove consistency. Whatever they pursued and whatever they had in the beginning, they're not doing that anymore. They stopped. They got comfortable. Life got busy. Kids came in. They stopped being consistent. That doesn't mean it's over. You just got to get it back. How do you shift momentum? By starting momentum. 2 days in a row. 3 days in a row. 4 weeks. 4 months. 4 years. Change your habits and routines. When you focus on those 4 pillars, they'll change your life. And I could talk on this topic forever. Momentum, being consistent, all of that. We just got to make that choice. That one choice that's going to change our life. We got to make the choice to step into our greatness. We got to say yes. We got to keep moving in the right direction. I appreciate everybody showing up for this first episode. It's been a while in the making, and it happened at the right time, God's time. God's always on time. God's time can be stressful, but God's always on time. So, with that being said, we're going to end it right here. But tune back in for the next episode. We're going to be doing these about 1 to 2 times a week. And a lot of times we're going to have guests. Like I said, sometimes it'll be my wife. Sometimes it'll be some other high-level guests. But we're going to cover lots of different topics, lots of different lives of getting that growth for you, for your marriage, for the kingdom, for your family, for everybody. So if you feel like you're in a spot right now, you need a little help outside of this podcast, follow us on social media, get a little bit extra stuff in there. Tommy McAllister on Instagram, Tommy and Diane on TikTok, Tommy McAllister on Facebook Reels, or you can go ahead and reach out at highlevelhusband.com and check out some of our coaching on there. And there'll be some links below here as well to where you can look at that. With some high-level programs, some exclusive, that's very exclusive, and we only take on X amount of people. Or if you're looking for more of a group coaching model, that's a very effective model as well. So whatever it is that I can help you with, if that's me, awesome. If that's not me, if that's somebody else, that's great as well. Either way, I just know the value of locking arms and walking side by side with other people who are on this mission of greatness, who've been around, gotten over that mountain, climbed it a little bit high, a little bit higher than where you are. Just know the value of shortening the road for you. If that's you, reach out. Like I said, if it's not to me, just reach out to somebody, because it's fun to keep climbing. Much love. God bless y'all.